want to say good morning?
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to read a book that my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Robinson, read to us in class. I was obsessed with it, went home, insisted my mom get it, and because my mom is the best, of course, she did go out and get me this book, and this is actually that exact book. This is Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. This book is over 30 years old. All right, this is written by Judy Barrett and it is illustrated by Ron Barrett. Are you ready to get started? Awesome. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could each eat, and Grandpa was doing the flipping. Seconds later, something flew through the air, headed toward the kitchen ceiling, and landed right on Henry. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully.
A donkey on this page.
There is a doggy on this page. Oh, and this page. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall-tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge, bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts, and 1 smaller ocean, there lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. A kitty, yeah. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them.
I have a kitty in my house.
You do have kitties in your house. A schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there were no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. I know. You're really spotting all those kitties and doggies today, aren't you? Yeah. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain, it never snowed snow, and it never just blew wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas. And sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. The people could watch the weather report on the television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction for the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way they would be prepared for any kind of weather.
Doggy rain.
A donkey in the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that says like food bowl, huh? So he can get his food. That's pretty funny. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people took them home and put them in their refrigerators in case they got hungry between meals. The menus varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny-side-up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time, it rained milk afterwards. For lunch one day, frankfurters, already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest in about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby. Then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times. 2 doggies.
And 1 kitty cat.
And 1 kitty.
2
You're right.
1, 2 doggies and 1 kitty cat.
Very good. Becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by a gradual clearing.
Look,
I know, I see them, all that food, huh?
Yeah.
With a wonderful jello setting in the west.
All the food.
They are cleaning up all the food. That's the sanitation department of Chew and Swallow. Had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned up things after every meal and fed it to all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back in the earth so that the soil would be richer for the people's flower gardens. Is that funny?
Yeah. And put some seed and seeds cut.
Yeah. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worst. See this headline on the newspaper? It says, "Spaghetti ties up town. Record-breaking pasta falls causing chaos." One day there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day. The next day there was only broccoli, all overcooked. And the next day there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. Another day there was pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently. Awful things were happening. One Tuesday there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. To help out, the people piled as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but it just stayed there and got staler and staler. There was one storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close the school. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomach ache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds everywhere. Oy, oy, oy. The sanitation department gave up.
Look,
I know.
donuts in town.
Donuts are in the town. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives.
And hamburger.
The hamburger. Oh, look, it's on top of him. Oh, no. He's trying to help at least. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there was no more school for the children. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow.
Look. Look, Mom.
What? What's happening?
On here.
On their head?
Yeah.
Where? This one? Oh, it's a big noodle. A noodle fell on his head. Oh, goodness. So the decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. The people glued together a giant piece of stale bread, sandwich style, with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them, and set sail on their rafts for a new land.
Look, that's big hole hamburger.
Yeah, it's a sandwich, but yeah, it is a big one, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't care. I hold it.
You would hold it?
Too big.
Oh, it'd be too big for you to hold it?
No.
Yeah, probably, huh? After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town which welcomed them. The bread had held together surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of it. The children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at a supermarket. They found...
Mommy.
I see her.
Really go behind.
Yeah. They found it odd that the food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again.
Look, that person at you.
Oh, I think, yeah, you think she's sneezing?
Yeah.
Maybe. She's in bed, so what else might she be doing? What else maybe? Think she's getting sleepy maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe a little. And nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remember his kiss goodnight. The next morning, we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so that we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top, and we could almost smell mashed potatoes. The end. All right, do you want to come up and say bye to everybody? Oh. All right. That's all right. Okay. So you say bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, sorry, baby. Are you good? Here, give me a kiss.
That's the funny story. The meatballs in the story.
There's a bunch of meatballs in the story?
Yeah, and lots of people swaying.
Oh, yeah?
What else
Is there
happened?
other food?
Chew and swallow.
Chew and Swallow.
That was the name of the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else happened in the story? Did they have to leave? Did they leave their town?
One school and school closed.
Why did the school close?
Because the people closed it.
What happened to the school? Do you remember what was on top of it? Is it a big breakfast treat?
Yeah.
What was it?
Big house. Cup.
It was a pancake, wasn't it?
Yeah. And have to clean up.
They had to clean